America has the highest population of prisoners behind bars in the world, yet it continues to assume that putting people in prison is the only answer for both nonviolent and violent criminals. In this speech, I'm going to explain why rehabilitation for nonviolent criminals is a better solution to the growing prison population. There are many perspectives and studies that exist on both sides of this issue, but I have researched this topic and know that rehabilitation for nonviolent criminals is what the American criminal justice system needs. First, I'm going to give you a little overview of the current status of prisons in America. Then I'm going to tell you about the current state of rehabilitation in prison. And then I'm going to finally tell you about rehabilitation and why it's the best choice for overpopulation in prisons. So to begin, let's talk about where American prisons stand currently and where they are potentially headed. America leads the world in prison population. And according to Peter Cattell's prison reform, there are 2.2 million people incarcerated in American jails, with this number expected to rise. California has more people in prison than any other state in the U.S., so many people that overcrowding has become a problem. 55% of the people in federal prisons are nonviolent drug offenders that receive higher sentences than needed for first-time offenses. According to Peter Cattell's Downsizing Prisons, nearly 40% of all prisoners released from state prisons return within their first 3 years of release. The number of people in prison is actually expected to grow over the next few years. And according to Peter Cattell's prison reform, the number of prison inmates is projected to grow 3 times faster than the national population. And with the growing population of inmates, overcrowding has caused many states to actually release criminals back onto the streets, only to be arrested at a later time. The cost of housing prisoners at one point was projected to reach nearly $40 billion. And so with this knowledge presented, what role is rehabilitation playing in today's prison system? The support for rehabilitation to keep ex-inmates out of prison is growing. And according to Peter Cattell's Downsizing Prisons, 3/4 of Americans favor reducing prison terms for low-risk, nonviolent offenders already serving time. And according to Peter Cattell's prison reform, rehabilitation programs in state prisons have declined and have steadily received less and less funding since the late 1970s. And unfortunately, negative conclusions on rehabilitation were drawn through only a few studies that involved a small number of social scientists that seemed to prove that rehabilitation did not work. It has been discovered that many prisoners lack the ability to read and write properly. And according to Peter Cattell's Downsizing Prisons, prisoners that are able to be educated are less likely to return to prison than those that are not educated. And some politicians and law officials state that giving education to prisoners is a waste of time and money, and that too much money is already going into the prison system. So even with these arguments, can we as a country afford to continue paying billions to house first-time criminals and those that can be reintroduced to the outside world through rehabilitation? There are many first-time offenders that receive simply too long of a sentence for crimes that they commit. There are currently too many people in jail that are serving too much time for first-time offenses. And according to Sarah Glaver's sentencing reform, nearly half of the federal inmates serving time are serving it for drug crimes that are in need of substance abuse treatment. Many of these drug offenders receive more time in prison on average than those serving second-degree murder, kidnapping, or child rape charges. Rehabilitation can help the nonviolent prison mass and reduce the overall number of prisoners in American prisons. And according to Sarah Glaver's sentencing reform, at least 25 states, with the help of federal money, have begun a process called justice reinvestment, which aims to stop ex-prisoners from committing crimes again. Some states have seen a great reduction in the number of returning inmates over the past few years because of the justice reinvestment program. Yet there are so many factors that need to be considered when dealing with this subject, but all factors deserve the right to be viewed and heard, especially on inmate rehabilitation. So in conclusion, I first addressed the current state of American prisons. Then I told you about where rehabilitation fits in today's prison system. And finally, I told you why rehabilitation rehabilitation is the best treatment for non-violent criminals. And I hope this information has opened your eyes and has allowed you to understand some of the complexities that surround the growing prison population, and that you will take a closer look at rehabilitation in prison. Thank you for your time.